On Friday, June 21st of the N-Scale Convention, Michael and I had the opportunity to go to Joe Desmond's layout, his Central Jersey Conrail, and have an impromptu operating session. Now, Joe and I have been friends through Facebook and YouTube for at least 9 to 10 years, but we have never met face to face. We have collaborated with ideas back and forth with one another. We've even both appeared on an YouTube site for yard operations. But when I contacted Joe in February before planning our trip and just said, hey, we're in that area, could I possibly come and see your layout? Joe was more than willing to have us come to see his layout. And seeing Joe's layout in person, it feels like it's a much bigger layout than it really is. He has utilized his space so well in his design. And I was looking so forward to the operating session because many of the times when I host an operating session on my own layout, I never get to run the trains. I just get to help assist other people. So this was an opportunity for me to actually just be an operator. And Joe even got some Corn Country Rails swag with a t-shirt and a cup that my wife had made for him.
Right just north of Old Bridge, right on this line of this box.
So before the operating session, we got a little brief history of the area we'd be running in, which was greatly appreciated.
And then this is the southern secondary. So what I've done is kind of based it upon a study that the New Jersey did, but it said to Conrail, hey, if you need to leave these lines to service the Sebagaiga facility, then you had this just north of Lakehurst would have been the Jackson area. There's a lot of sand pits down there. We did a lot of heavy mining for sand. This little tail track here is representing of the Lakehurst Naval Air Station. There was a lot of contamination from the Beaumont. This started handling everything. Why even bother?
You could always get the rail. Like, now where'd you get your rail from?
From Fast Tracks.
Fast Tracks.
Yeah.
They seem to be the cheapest.
And he has no supply issues.
Yeah, he's got. You could always get the single rail, but the actual.
We also made a new model railroad friend, as Ben, a friend of Joe's, was also at the impromptu op session. And so Ben has now befriended all of us as well. We had a great time. So Joe was acting as train master, getting Ben's train ready to go out first. I was second, and then Michael was third.
Sounds like my girls are tearing loose up there. I don't know what's going on.
So this was my train for the evening. I was a small local doing the industrial switching at the Sebagaiga plant. Joe forgot to mention to me I couldn't leave my train out here on the main line. So when I got here, I cut my train, took my engine up to do the industrial switching, and then came back, and Joe was like, oh, you're supposed to take all those cars up there. Whoops. Sorry about that, Joe. But got the switching done and got my train out of the way because Michael's train was coming behind me. And, well, my train being out here on the main line kind of slowed up his work.
I just give out. Well, I'm going to go the very intake part under the underpass. So, all right, rerail them right there, and I'll come and get them here to see you. Okay. All right, stop this. So I've got my.
The whole design for switching at this plant is a switching puzzle in itself. So there's a lot of back and forth movements. There's a lot of facing switches and tailing switches and that. So You can spend quite a bit of time up here. Well, if I had to bring those other cars up with me, that would have even prolonged the switching puzzle.
Oh, I'm not going to track. No. Oh, okay. Sorry. You don't want to take it over to the steel class? Yep. Car track, so
That's gonna be second track.
A lot of back and forth movements as I only had enough headroom for my locomotive and a car. Sometimes I got lucky that I could get a locomotive and two cars, but a lot of times this is what my evening consisted of a lot of back and forth, of making up the train and as I'm doing my pickups, and then when I have to bring the rest of the train back up here, doing my setouts. So my train of all my pickups is completed, so I'm backing down out of the plant. Now the nice thing is, anything to the left of my train are my cars I need to set out. So I essentially connected my whole train, or coupled my whole train together, and then ran around my train, and then pushed my setouts up the hill to perform the work there, and left the cars I just picked up on the hill, so at least they would temporarily be out of my way. The only problem with that is then I still had the caboose to contend with, so the caboose got a lot of movement from one siding to another siding as I needed room to work the industrial tracks.
you done up there?
No, all those cars I have to go set up. But as soon as I clear up there, you should be good.
So I went over to that.
So as soon as I run around my set out part of my train with my pickups part of the train, that'll free up the track where my train was parked for Michael to continue the rest of his switching as well. So it all worked out, and just like the real railroad, sometimes we have to face these challenges and problems out there, and how to be a problem solver to make it work.
How are they spelled? What do you say?
I think they're fantastic. I saw him during his introduction at the Nashville show,
Okay.
and he at the time had just more or less got them figured out. But now he has streamlined the process, and it's two pieces, and you've got a top and a bottom piece, just like the micro train. But one of them has a small prong, the other one has a small prong. In between them is the spring, kind of like the micro train spring. But they slide down over the shaft, whereas the micro trains has a spring and a slot, so that's what you get that slinky action from. They self-center because there's something that you add, a little shim that you add, a brass shim that you add in the box. The spring centers on it.
I knew what you were. I knew.
So now I'm getting ready for the big shove of pushing the rest of my train up the hill to the Sebageigen plant. And I had to probably put it in about notch 8 to make a run at the hill to get up there with what I had to push up there, but also the part of the train I was dragging behind me.
But I feel like you could cut the tip off and adapt it to work with the scale and still have the rig.
There was somewhere I saw a guy, he just went to Walmart and bought a bunch of those flashlights. And he just cut this off and glued it right to the head of the gun.
Seemed to not want to line up.
And my train finally made it up there. So the cars behind my locomotive, I was able to back those up a little bit. Joe has a hill brake on his panel, so as soon as I could catch one of the axles on the hill brake, Joe helped me kind of set my train so that it was out of the way. Great compliment when you see waybill boxes that have the picks drilled in right beside them and hear the owner say, "Yeah, I did that because that's what I saw on Corn Country Rails." Thanks, Joe. So now came the challenge of spotting my setouts. And you might see the caboose go back and forth once in a while from one track to another as I moved it around quite a few times to allow room for me to spot my setouts.
I had it this week when I was writing up the switch list, so I must have dropped it.
It's 51.
Do what you can with it, Michael.
Well, it's on the switch list.
Yeah.
It's just I don't have the color.
I wonder if did I mix them up in the other pack or something? Do what you can. I'll figure it out later.
Well, I can.
And my work was almost done. I was getting down my last 2 tank cars that I need to set out. Then I was going to be able to put my train back together and head back to the yard.
I got a junior in high school and a junior in college.
Oh, wow.
Actually, no. You're gonna come in here and stop and leave your train at. You're gonna take your locomotives through.
So I spent about a good 90 minutes just in this area with my pickups and my setouts, but I had a great time. So back out on the main line, I was going to put my train back together, run around my train with the locomotive, and then head back to the yard.
Good, and your lines are gonna write down and then what I say about it. Okay.
Ben had finished his train first, and he had to leave early to head back home. He still had quite a bit of a drive ahead of him. Michael was the second train back in the yard, and then I was the last train to make it back in the yard for the evening.
Because all stuff like that happens
Right.
where you have two guys running into each other.
Did you have a name for the job I did?
Yeah, there's the WJSA37.
Okay.
My way bills and my switch list all checked out, so I must have done everything right.
W stands for Wind Freight. J stands for New Jersey Division. And SA is for Centerville.
Well, it was a great evening operating on Joe Desmond's layout, and I can't thank him enough for allowing us to have an impromptu op session on his layout. I am so glad I reached out to him in February when we were planning our trip for our N-Scale convention, and that Joe was willing. Joe, this meant so much to meet you finally in person, and I've appreciated our friendship over all the years, and so I just hope you know that.
That's going to be a fault. That means you'll be, actually, no, these are 18, right?
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know, pick a number.
Now, what school teacher sent him that
So you
dice?
roll a
Oh yeah,
13.
that's right. That was
When you
me.
go through the scale, it's overweight and you got to ship it back.
Oh.
So, but that was a 9, so that means they're in weight.
Okay.
So that's what the yard operator would do. And if he has an overweight, he'll kick it out, send it back on the next job because they got to redo it. So.
Well, Joe, you have a wonderful layout. Thank you again for hosting. I hope you've all enjoyed this video, and happy railroading to all of you.